able to see you there. Okay, God, this thing's loud. Anyhow, simply put, I got into two-way radios a couple months ago. Maybe up to 3 months ago now. Reluctantly. Not my bag, not my thing. It's not a ham radio. We grew up with CB radios. I'm from the 80s, but the radio, even when I was hardcore prep and all, the comms was not my deal. Not interested. And I knew that's wrong. You really should at least have a radio or a radio setup, and at least know how to use it. Now, I went ahead, watched some videos, got on Amazon, bought a radio, cheap little radio, and it got here in a box, and it sat for a month. That's how interested I was. Okay, I got it. I'll deal with that later. And I'll make more videos on it. The Helene, North Carolina thing, that got me more interested, because I watched people make videos saying if it wasn't for a radio or a ham operator next door or my neighbor's CB in his truck, they never would have found us. And so I thought, okay, okay, I could see that. We don't have that kind of thing here in California so much. We have earthquakes, though. We could have a big earthquake. And the only thing I added is I went and got a bunch of maps, my local maps, because the ones I had were old. And if you could make contact with someone on your radio if some devastating thing happened, and they could find a street sign somewhere, you could probably, with your maps, because we have a lot of new roads and stuff, you need your local stuff, your city, your county, your state. You should be able to talk someone in as a means of rescue, or vice versa, whatever. You kind of get the idea. So I thought, okay, you should have a radio, should know how to use it, maps, so if you make contact with someone, you can get together somehow and help each other out. Now, something interesting I found, like I said, I'll make more videos about this later on, because I'm right in the middle of something. But one thing I found interesting, you think of a two-way radio, walkie-talkie, handy-talkie, ham radio, CB radio, all this stuff. It's just radios. What's the big deal? There's something that I fought with because I just didn't get it. But there is emergency radio or emergency comms, and then there is tactical comms. Two separate things, okay? And you might talk to someone or see someone making a comment on a YouTube video like, well, that doesn't make any sense in an emergency situation. So you got to, okay, when you're talking radios, are you talking emergency communications or are you talking tactical? Two separate things. In an emergency situation, you're trying to reach people. You want to get that radio out there as far as you can. You want to have a big footprint. You want to be found. Okay, that's if you're in Helene or that North Carolina deal, you want to be found. Hey, we're over here, we need help. Okay. Big radio, more power, real Western kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff I was raised at. Get the biggest one you could buy and make all this kind of thing. Tactical is not that. Tactical is you want to have this individual over there hear you. You want to have as small a print as possible, because you don't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry and smoking gun to locate you. And they have, I didn't know they had this. They have gear now. They call it, the CB guys, or the ham guys do it. They call a fox hunt, where they have the tools. As long as you're transmitting, they can slowly, catch you right up to your front door. Okay, and they do this. And they do it for fun. They do it as an exercise. I thought it's kind of entertaining. But in a tactical situation, you don't want to be found necessarily. You want to camouflage yourself as much as possible. So if you're talking radios and communications, there's at least those two differences. There may be more I haven't figured out yet. In an emergency situation, I believe you're wanting to go out as far and wide as you can, reach as many people, be as effective as possible for your rescue, your safety. Whereas tactical, you don't want that. You want a smaller radio. You want a smaller wattage, less power. Just, I was going to say small unit tactics, but that's kind of a similar thing. But I had to get my mind around that before I can understand. And this tactic guy was talking about one thing, and he's debating and arguing with a ham operator who's trying to bounce signal off the moon. You guys are talking two different languages. You should not even be debating. You're not even you're not the same thing. But that I found pretty interesting. So you have there's radios I've purchased and radios I will purchase in the future that have just that specific in mind. This is an emergency radio. And I don't want to get into the legalities of who can do it. That's up to you to figure out. You got to have licensing for some stuff, not necessarily all the stuff. But I have in my plan is an emergency setup and then something more technical. But I remember seeing watching a video. There's I won't label it because I might get it wrong. There's a certain frequency, a certain radio that works on a certain frequency, very small, only a couple of channels. So it has the fewest channels. It's low power, specifically low power. Why would they even make this? Specifically low power, a mile or two at best. And these guys are just, these ham guys are just all over this thing. What a piece of junk. Why would you barely hear your neighbor, this kind of thing. Whereas the tactical guy spoke up, said, this is ours. This is ours. This is what we use. And so it's just an interesting tool. Never thought I would be interested in anything radio or any of that kind of stuff. I do not necessarily want to talk to strangers from the other side of the globe. Not interested in that. But that Helene thing really got me thinking. You got to have some sort of communication plan, something going on if your grid goes down or something like that. And then know the difference. There's emergency, there's tactical. Two separate things. Can be different kinds of radios, different types of antennas. How you use them would be different. One is short and quick, directed. The other is loud and proud. Very interesting. I read it. I got a book, read it. I'll talk about it later. But yeah, if you've thought about radios, I'll do a couple kind of a pseudo review of a couple radios I bought and how they operate differently for different situations. Yeah, the more I know, I'll share it with you. Love you. God bless.